97, 98, 99, 100. Staying in shape here at the Church of Elvis Seymour Latter-day Saints, which I'm the founder, pastor, spiritual advisor of. Really enjoying the early morning Wimbledon matches. It's great to see the All England Club. It's always fantastic to watch a little top-notch tennis in England. And let me tell you, I've been busy. I wish I was in Wimbledon, but I've been busy focusing on things, get things done, important things, traveling. I thought I was going to chill out, but it picked up. But you know us has been busy? Y'all been busy. You all been busy. I've had the opportunity to watch more YouTube than normal. And the last 2 weeks has been some of the best content I've ever seen y'all do. Everyone is just producing. Fred Putterman's doing more videos. They look great, by the way. He's doing more. Final Richie, Final Archivist, Rachel's ghost, her stream, rising from the ashes like a phoenix. It's never been better. The Wax is doing videos. Mazzy's Vinyl Therapy, I think the last one, I wasn't able to watch, but I could listen to about 25 minutes. Couldn't watch where I was. But there was an English gentleman there. You could only hear his voice, very sophisticated. His knowledge about the island label, his knowledge in general was just stunning. I don't know anything. It's so amazing. I love learning. And I'm jealous of y'all that have a deep collection of early island, because I have a book, coffee table book, that was gifted to me. I treasure it. What a label. So Mazzy, that was one of the best ones you guys have ever done. The Peanut Gallery's never been funnier, which I can jump in and out of. And it's just been great. So I want to do a quick birthday shout out. His birthday was yesterday. A little bit of a rant, but more of an appreciation, then we'll get out of here and I'll watch more of your videos. But happy birthday, Andrew Hill, yesterday. The late, great Andrew Hill. One of the most sophisticated, talented, interesting artists ever on Blue Note. An artist. The founders of Blue Note adored, and were excited every time he released something. Now, I was jokingly saying on Instagram when I posted his birthday, this is the Blue Note Connoisseur series pressing from the 90s. I think they did CDs then. They were releasing what they felt like were unappreciated albums or artists. And I'm so confused now of where all my Blue Notes come from. They all sound great, that's all that matters, but it's hysterical. This was Proto-Tone Poet, and then you had Music Matters, and there's just all kinds of stuff. But what was crazy is I think this was on Putterman's all-time favorite Blue Notes, which a very popular channel, jazz channel, very good, called his list cliche. And I thought that was a little crazy because Andrew Hill easily can be on people's all-time lists. And here's the deal with Blue Note. The bullpen is so deep, not to use an American sports term, but y'all make a Blue Note list, you ain't gonna miss. You ain't gonna miss. And I remember when they announced this one as their first tone poet, I think with Lee Morgan, or first or second series, I was like, you sneaky sons of bitches. Because the Music Matter prices were so expensive at that point, and probably still are, that this was a huge announcement to do this in-house. And a lot of people were gonna be able to hear Andrew Hill for the first time. And I watched some of the reviews when this came out on YouTube, and people who were new to the hobby or new to higher end pressings or wanted a piece of what they were doing, like Music Matters, were blown away at this album. How this man was so sophisticated, merging contemporary jazz of the era, particularly 60s, with his deep knowledge and respect and understanding of contemporary, I would say contemporary classical European music, and melding all different styles, the avant-garde, and delivering it in a way just about no one else could. Another person who could was on Putterman's list, his album, I think, The All-Seeing Eye by Wayne Shorter. Wayne Shorter, I think I've said this. Wayne Shorter, this album taught me more about music, listening to music, understanding music, learning about it, listening, than just about any other album in jazz. Wayne Shorter is one of the greatest American composers of all time, of any genre. I don't care. Argue with your hamster. He just is. And I'm so fascinated by him as a leader and a player on all kinds of albums, I just adore Wayne. So I didn't feel like it was cliche at all to have this Wayne Shorter on a list. It'd probably be on a lot of people's lists. You can't miss. But it leads me to a bigger point that I want to talk about, an appreciation. And Stunty is probably one of the biggest names, and he's streaming more, who understands these concepts more than anyone. Where the experimental, the avant-garde, or if we're talking about jazz, the free jazz. Now, I don't have the knowledge, the integrity, the dignity that it deserves to talk about race, African American civil rights movement, and the black art form that is American jazz. Smarter, more educated people speak about that, and I'm all ears, and I listen. But I know that I'm obsessed with sound. I can talk about that. But that aspect is inseparable, and people talk about it, and I learn, and I love it. But I knew that I was obsessed with sound, and I labeled it. I think I was able to label it at a particular moment. I was at a Sonic Youth concert, of all things, in the early 90s. I think the album was Dirty. It's one of their second major label album. And I had seen Sonic Youth numerous times before that show. But I remember I was working at a record store at the time, I think, and the promo came out, I put it on. And there was a song called Teresa's Sound World, that I thought was probably the best track on the album. But I wasn't blown away by the album. But I like it. Still have that promo somewhere. And when I saw it live, Teresa's Sound World overwhelmed me. It hit me where I was standing like a symphony, right in the middle. Like when you have good seats at a symphony and you feel that wave. Thick, strong wave. And I remember it's like your speakers disappear. You're just an out-of-body experience and you're so focused. I remember saying, I love the sound of this so much. I love sound. And it was beautiful. And that was the thing. We don't always associate Sonic Youth with beauty. And looking back, they have a lot of songs with beauty in them. And I think the way an image is portrayed with the band, or the label does it, or the way we have to box things in, we probably missed a lot of beauty in the Velvet Underground's music, where there's a lot of beauty in some of those tracks, and other groups like that, where there's actual beauty. And I think what happens with the experimentalists, the avant-garde, the jazz just happens to be a hypersonic vehicle for experimentation, particularly in the 60s, because besides being great players, they were educated in music. They understood structure in music. So they were able, with greater ease compared to maybe the rock and rollers, to blend the avant-garde, world music from different places, to create incredible things. And John Coltrane is the person who listened so well, who was obsessed with sound. And he stacked styles and the things he learned. And of course, you're having moments, you will have moments where you stop and you have Ornette Coleman music, who was, I believe, self-taught. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong. Where the atom is split and people argue and they're upset. And then there's people that love it. I mean, a gentleman from the Modern Jazz Quartet discovered him. They're not the most avant-garde group ever. And so those people understand the progression that that art form was going to have and needed. And some people took a stand, but people like Coltrane, there's this great book called The Story of Sound, Coltrane. Ben Ratliff, I've read this a couple times. And it really focuses, it's not about John Coltrane's life, but it focuses on sound and his obsession with sound. And what I love so much about artists, that sometimes they don't have the talent necessary to push like those great musicians had, but they were listening. They were listening to people like Coltrane who kept pushing and pushing and pushing and became more and more controversial. But future members of the Doors, future members of the Grateful Dead, Philip Glass, Stephen Reich, Brian Eno, Fripp, Iggy Pop, they were listening. They wanted to find something because they knew that that was special, that was unique. And it was more than liking it. It was experiencing and listening. Because what I believe what happens is that the experimental people, the people who are compelled, who are passionate, who can't stand still, they become almost in contango with the future spot of where popular culture is. And it influences it for the better. And oftentimes, the early influences is when the contango happens. People don't realize that when they listen to a Brian Eno album like this, where a lot of the influences come from. And that's okay. But if you're curious, you'll dig deeper and deeper into that tree and see those lines of where it came from. And I adore that album. But I'm so happy that those great musicians, or the Beatles with Sgt. Pepper's and what have you, kept moving forward. And I feel like those people, whether it be the avant-garde or the free jazz or whatever art, literature, they're some of the most welcoming people in music who respect the chronological order even more than the traditional people. There's a Dave Brubeck album, All the Things We Were. A couple free jazz guys adore this album. A lot of trad guys think Brubeck sucks. He's a schmuck. He's not worthy of anything. But the people who understood deeply how the progression of jazz or music influenced them have a deep appreciation for this. And by the way, I've never not seen this in a promo copy. I don't think a soul bought it. Roy Haynes is on this, and he's amazing, by the way. We all know Roy. But I just want to say how much of a deep appreciation I have for those artists that go after it, who don't stand still. And I know different forms progress at different times. And a lot of that, I think, is just people that have a deep knowledge of music and a skill and can read it. And they blend that music from other sources. They can read that too. And they just sometimes have a head start. It doesn't mean it's better. It just means that I think jazz was just suited for that progression and had a huge impact on the rock and roll that we love. I'll stop at this. I think about a band like Wire. And more it comes into focus just how ahead of the curve they were and what they were listening to and how important they were. I just keep appreciating them more and more. But anyways, that's all I have. I hope you guys have a great holiday weekend. Can't wait to see your videos. I know that. Take care, y'all.